What's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo of 4HorsemanNetwork.com, OneTrueSportTV.com, SCScoops.com. That's a dirt sheet I write for, but I am here. It is some straight talk with the boss. Well, none other than Magnum TA, Greg Gagne. We are live, and we're ready to chat a little bit of wrestling. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Awesome.
How about he up for both of us this week. I'm the one kind of.
I look a little dark
shoulders.
Magnum's a little under the weather. Oh, we can't see you at all, Greg.
Okay, I'm coming back.
You're like the emperor.
All this technology trying to work the blinds is, throws me off.
You need a lighting crew in there.
Yeah, you need my lighting crew.
And everything.
TA, down in the dumps here. You feel a little low?
No, I'm not. It's not. I'm feeling bad. I just can't. I can't quite kick this little tickle cough that keeps coming back on me, and it's been keeping me from getting my beauty sleep. As you can tell, I mean, I look way better than this last week.
Well, you look like the brawny man. I'll say that. How about that?
Well, with Trump closing the border, things will get better. We won't get sick as much.
You think that'll cure it?
Boy, did you hear them on TV today by any chance?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, not Trump, but the guy handling the border.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, did he lay the law down?
Oh boy. I'm sure that's catching news already too.
Oh, it was good. It's about time.
The ever-changing landscape of politics and
OAC was trying to bury him, and he ate her up.
Holy smokes. Well, we got some good wrestling stuff to talk today about. Starting off, Raw just happened on Monday here, and only 2 hours. I'm liking the 2 hour vibe and everything like that. But Greg, we mentioned earlier how Gunther is really hitting out of the park and how much I like Damian Priest, and they're the ones that kick off the show this week. And just wanted to get your thoughts further on Gunther and everything and what they've been doing. Like, they make him question. He's questioning himself at this point, and I think that's a good kind of angle to take for him for this feud with Priest, who he's already gone up against.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Well, that should be a good run there between those two.
Yeah,
that Gunther, he's got a great interview. He's solid in the ring. He's got that great look, that great personality for what he does, and I wouldn't want to get in the ring and take some of those chops, though.
Oh my gosh, yes, he is devastating in that regard.
And Damian Priest, I mean, he has come such a long way from a few years back, and he's a superstar. He's really good, great in the ring, good talker. They got some good stuff going with Dominic and that crew. So the future looks great for that whole organization, I think.
Yeah, 100% it does. They're heading in the right direction with some good storytelling. Magnum, did you have any certain takeaways from whether it's Gunther or certain aspects of Raw that maybe stood out to you, or just wrestling this week in general?
Well, I think it's unique because they brought a different element out in Gunther. They've shown that he has a vulnerability. He's not just the war machine that can go out there and systematically dismantle everyone. I mean, Cody, holds that victory over him now for the the last pay-per-view they had, and he's shown that he can be out wrestled, I guess is the right word, if given the opportunity. So, and it's given Damian's coming on real aggressive and play and leaning into that, which is the right thing to do. I mean, you got to paint the picture to people that there's an opportunity for it being a contest, and there may be a change, because if it's just a no-brainer, well, that's never going to happen, then that's not going to create much interest.
Right.
So I like the fact of seeing somebody having some vulnerability. You can only make them a monster for so long before they've got to have somebody that can be competitive with them. So,
yeah.
So I mean, for me, I'd love to see him and like a Brock Lesnar, Gunther and Brock, I think would be huge money. So he's got to have somebody that can carry on that physicality with him. And Cody, brought the physicality to him by ways of the old school wrestling, and very solid wrestling. And it wasn't just bangs and chops and things like that. It was just very solid, methodical wrestling. And the right cat in there with him has got to be perceived to be kind of the total package of bringing all that to the dance. So it's going to take a guy like that. I mean, as much as I like Steiner's kid and what he's doing, he's still his persona is larger than what he's able to portray in the ring, if that makes sense.
That does.
He's got the hype, he's got the explosiveness, he's got the intensity. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Animal and Hawk when they first got started. Just full of just vim and vigor and adrenaline and testosterone, and and then the bell rang, and then they had to bring the magic to go with it, and they got where they did, and I think he will as well. As time goes on, he'll get those two on an even par with each other, because that's really, at the end of the day, you've got to be able to tell the story after the bell rings to continue it on. And Sheamus and him were great. Sheamus is a big bad boy, and I like the dialogue. I liked Sheamus said, "Hey, I was that brash kid. I was like that. I was the youngest world's champion to come out of nowhere, and all the things that he did early in his career. So now it's like when Braun's calling him an old man and all that stuff, I'm going, you got to be careful. There's a reason people get to be that age and they're still around. They might still know a thing or two, or about a thing or two, and be able to take care of themselves. So it's intriguing stuff. They're in this little weird transitional place going into the holidays and going pointing towards WrestleMania season. I'm just so curious to see the twists and turns with this whole bloodline deal, because Seth making a real strong statement, hey, I'm never tag teaming with that guy ever. It is not going to happen, and laying it out there. So it's just they could do some really, really cool things. I think it's just now our expectations are so high week to week. We want every episode we watch to be like the next Yellowstone coming out.
Right. No, it's been really well done, set up. I love the bloodline story, the elements of Sami Zayn coming into play, and him kind of playing both sides of the field in certain ways, but then emphatically joining alongside of Roman and everything like that to close out SmackDown. And then they move it over to this, what you mentioned too, Magnum, him approaching Seth Rollins, and then Jimmy Uso approaching Braun Breaker. And then Seth Rollins drawing a line in the sand with both of them, saying no, I'm not being any part of this stuff like that. It creates so much intrigue of who's going to be the fifth man, and for this War Games match, and really, really good stuff. And I think a lot of these guys are getting the chance to shine as personalities, like Solo Sikoa in these moments and stuff like that. I think he's doing a great job.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the hottest angle that I've seen in years?
Okay. What do you got?
KO and Randy Orton.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, my God, that was an old school type deal, and it was well done, and there was tremendous amount of heat on that, and Randy was carted off on a stretcher, and who knows if he'll be back. He had that. I mean, he had the same back surgery that I had. He's got
the double fusion, right? It was a
fusion. Yeah, you got screws, and you got braces in your back. And for him to even go back in there and wrestle again, he's out of his mind.
Yeah.
And then what happened the other night, it just, you could feel that crowd. And to me, that was right back a lot of old school to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty neat. Magnum,
It
did you
was.
catch that?
They got into it. I mean, the fans got into it. They got hot.
Absolutely, yeah. Magnum, did you get to catch that pile driver and everything too?
Yeah, I did. I kind of wish I hadn't caught the pile driver part.
I know.
So here's my take, and I'm just going to say it like I mean it. The pile driver was the shits.
It was.
I'm sorry, it just was.
It was. You're right.
Yeah.
And
But the angle itself was
you
good.
You can't base an angle. I don't care how well somebody's going to sell it or whatever. When the catalyst to the whole thing looked like, and Kevin is so capable. I just don't know what happened. I don't know if it was rushed. I don't know if it was just nerves of so many people in the ring and around and trying to do it with, so many bodies in the deal. But man, it was not. It was not Harley Race giving somebody a pile driver.
Not at all. I texted a group. I texted a bunch of my buddies in a group chat. I was like, it looks like they watched footage of two stuffed animals doing a pile driver.
Yes. That's exactly. It looked like a meme. It should have been. Yes.
Oh, you guys are tough.
No, I'm truthful. I'm straight.
No, you're right. You're right.
Talk with the boss, and it was horrible.
I love both guys. I think
it was too. Randy sold the hell out of it.
Yeah, he did.
And that kept it going. But I'm like you. I mean, like you talk Harley Race, Mad Dog Bashan was another one. Holy Christ, when you did that pile driver, you made contact with the mat.
Were you
the thing of it is people remember, why they outlawed it. They remember Stone Cold getting dropped on his head and breaking his neck. And it really ruined his career. I mean, he did it, no matter what run he had, he could have had more if he hadn't had that injury. Mm-hmm. And, it's just to pull something that, unique, and it was brilliant thinking. I mean, it was absolutely, to Greg's point, I mean, that is as old school angle as you could ever want to have shot. It's just, I'd have found another angle. I'd have found something, man. I'd have found some other twisted way around it. Because, like you said, remind me of like them two big-headed stuffed bears.
Right. That's what it like.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Usually I'm the guy
to bust your bubble, but that's the way.
I like it because usually I'm the one that criticizes, and I get that look from you all the time. But I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, gloves are off.
Right.
It's straight talk, guys. It's straight talk.
It is straight talk.
Yeah.
This is what I would have done, and I know hindsight's 20/20, but
what do you mean? What you would have done?
Look, okay.
Let's hear it.
I've got the ear of Triple H, okay? No, but this is what I would have handled. So another band move is Randy Orton's punt. I instead would have had Kevin Owens punt Randy Orton. And then you get that whole effect that, hey, he unleashed one of Randy's banned moves that has been banned from WWE and all that stuff and sent him through the ambulance. And then later on, you can address that in their feud. Then after the fact, the punt is back into play in Randy's mind. He loses it and then turns on Cody eventually, and you turn that into a story. That's kind of how I would have done it, I think, from the long term.
And it could have been because Randy is so big now. I mean, Randy's, almost 300 pounds.
Sure.
It might just have been that he didn't feel secure the way he was holding him, wanted to protect him, whatever. I mean, obviously safety is the number one thing.
Yeah.
And doing that move. And if you don't have the guy's shoulders, squarely on your thighs where you can really take that bump and protect his head off that mat, it's really dangerous. You're putting your life in somebody's hands.
Right.
Well, that's probably what was in the back of Randy's mind too. I mean, he tried to tuck his chin when he grabbed him.
This isn't on Randy.
Even then.
Let me retract a minute. None of this was on Randy. Randy was there. He did his part. He did. I think it's just that's a move that you got to have some pretty good upper body strength to really hold that guy the way he needs to be held, and then do that effectively. So, again, it's an old school deal. taken more of them and given more of them than I can even remember. Probably when I had no business doing either. Because
I didn't know you used to use that. You gave those too?
Yeah.
Oh, did you? See, how about that?
I did.
Glad I wasn't there to take one from you.
Well, I'm glad you got spared a lot of things, Greg. To be because I really like you today, and I would hate to have added to some of those, busted up bones and stuff you've got you're dealing with today.
God, I went in yesterday for my second nerve burn.
Did you?
On the left-hand side, yeah.
Oh my God.
They called me today. No, this was on the right side. They did. It's 2 weeks apart. And I said, well, I woke up today and I said, God damn it, my left side. I said, every time I take a little turn, it's like, I don't know, one of the screws in there or what is catching the S1. And it almost dropped me to my knees. And she said, well, that'll go away. And I said, well, that side was done 2 weeks ago. Now the right side, I still got the tingling in the foot. God, I'm not going to complain though, because TA's there and he went through a lot more than any of us have ever gone through, and he's still there. So
I'm not sure some days, but thank you.
Oh yeah.
Hey, just, as physical and as athletic we all were in our younger days, and then when you get these kind of injuries like TA had and all the other wrestlers and myself, it's really frustrating when you get older. I mean, you still feel like you want to do some of that stuff and you can't do it. And it just amazes me the strength and the mental part of it that you go through, that TA has gone through. And I just give him it's unbelievable, TA. And I know I say that a lot to you, but no, just you're tough son.
I'm at a new stage in life because Tucker is wide open in wrestling in high school now.
Yeah.
And I am trying to show him things in the ways that which I can. And poor kid, I've about killed him about 2 or 3 times. I'm like the old like Stu back in the day. And let me just get you this little thing right here and show you. And every time I touch him, something's hurt. And it's like he said, "Is it supposed to hurt?" And I said, "Yes, it's supposed to hurt."
Hey, how long did you wrestle amateur?
It seems like since I was about 4. I was on the varsity team 9th grade through my senior year.
What weight did you start at in 9th grade?
132, 145, 155, and then 167. I won the state title at 167.
You won the state? Damn.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you want to go to college and wrestle, or did you?
I did. I went to Old Dominion University, and I redshirted half the season. I don't remember exactly why. The first part of the season, but I was still trying to wrestle 167, and I just turned 18 the week after I graduated high school. So I really started changing drastically physically from 18 to 19, and keeping that weight down was no longer in the cards.
Yeah.
And it changed the whole game, because I went one summer, I came back and I weighed 215 coming back my sophomore year, and coach wanted me to go back down.
In high school?
No, college.
In college.
Yeah, I went up. I gained all that weight in one summer, and he said, "You need to get back down to one." I said, "That's not going to happen." So, and the funny thing of it is, all my life I dieted, and they drilled it in us. And you remember the deal, Greg? How they used to make you cut 10, 15 pounds below what your in shape was, and I was a better athlete at 225, 230 than I ever was at 167 pounds, because I had the frame and I didn't have the muscle in the juice to make it all do everything it was capable of doing. But I was faster, stronger, had more agility, more coordination, everything, when I was way bigger. So that smaller model of yourself being the best is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm glad, and they're not like that in high school now. Thank goodness.
No,
Yeah.
I kind of ran into the same thing. Did a little stuff when I was younger, and then freshman year, I was playing basketball because all my buddies were playing basketball, and they had one of the kids on the wrestling team got hurt. It was like 135, and I was about 150. And so I asked the basketball coach, I said, the wrestling coach asked if I'd come down for a little tryout. So I went down and I had a wrestler. I pinned everybody all the way up to the heavyweight, but then they wanted me to cut down to 135 pounds. And I was thin anyhow at 150.
Sure.
And I went home and talked to my dad, and he would love to have me wrestle amateur, but he said, no, you can't do that. You can't cut down that far.
No, that's a lot.
And that was the only spot he had. I mean, I beat the heavyweight, who was 220, and beat him. So, because Vern always come on downstairs and move all the furniture, and we'd go through, he'd a lot of amateur stuff, and then he'd throw some of the pro stuff in there on me.
Damn.
Hey, how about the
Vern don't mess around.
Yeah. Every time I came home from college, I was at the University of Wyoming, came home, move all the furniture. Come on. I'm 19, 20 years old and had to go down on the mat with him in the living room. And Christ, my poor mom would get so damn mad. He had me down. I could not get out. And I elbowed him in the nose. And with that, he really crunched me, broke 2 ribs. Now I have to go back to Wyoming for football. We got winter football, and I'm trying to throw the ball, and the coach says, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, I cracked a couple ribs. And he said, "Well, how did you do that?" And I said, "Well, here's the story. Here's the deal. I was wrestling with my dad in the living room. And of course, the coaches thought that was funnier than hell, but I made it through spring practice with him. But, oh, God, it was painful."
Gosh, that sounds That's just wild. That's absolutely wild.
I've heard Tully Blanchard tell that same kind of story. He was playing football in college.
Yeah. And
came home and thought he was in great shape, and he's going to show his dad a thing or two. And he said his dad stretched him from one end to the other, and he realized he knew nothing about that stuff.
Yeah. And
Joe was like a Big Ten champion in college and stuff.
Oh yeah, Joe was really good. He was,
yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Joe was really well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And if you ever see any pictures of a young Joe Blanchard, he like a daggone movie star.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had it all going on.
He sure did.
Were
you around Joe at all?
I worked for him. Yeah, I worked for him in San Antonio. When
he got drinking pretty good.
I never got into the socialized deal. I was just, I basically saw Joe at the TV tapings, and when we ran San Antonio, he was at that show. But pretty much that was it. But yeah, I hear he was quite a character.
Oh God. My dad had to do a spring fishing trip every year and bring in Wilbur Snyder, his buddy Joe Blanchard, and a couple of Fritz von Erich, a couple other guys, and then the local guys that did our TV and stuff, and took them on a hunting trip or a fishing trip, either one. Do one in the spring, they do the fishing, and in the fall they do the hunting trip, the pheasant hunting. And that damn Joe, he'd stay up for a couple of weeks, and he'd be on a small plane, and he could pound him down pretty good. And what was the song he used to sing? About an old dog. And he would sing that song, and he'd stand up in the bar. We'd get him in the bar and have the whole bar going. He was fantastic guy to be around.
Holy
those old school guys were, it's so different today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, they were characters.
I'm looking up Joe Blanchard too, and geez, I did not know he played for the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
Edmonton Eskimos. Man, crazy.
I think he played with Gene Kaninsky up there.
Yes, that's what it says. His teammates.
Gene was another one that used to come up all the time. And you talk about characters. Holy shit! You can't even. make these guys up. This is stuff they did.
Jeez, Jolton Joe Blanchard. That's what his nickname
Yep.
was. So how about that, man?
Wilbur Snyder was another one.
Man, yep, that he's mentioned in Wikipedia here too. They have Wilbur Snyder and Ted Tully as well.
Yeah,
Ted Tully. How about that? You know, you mentioned he's a good-looking dude too. Yeah, he does have those movie star looks. Holy smokes! So, man, that's crazy. Oh yes, thank you, Darren Staley, for the $20. He was running in the election last week. Didn't win, but got 24,000 votes in a red district. Immediately called my opponent and offered my help on any legislation where we agree for the benefit of the state and the district. Last politics post. Love you all. Well, congrats on the effort anyways, Darren, and all that stuff. So
who was that from?
Darren Staley, one of the fans here tuning in. He was running for North Carolina Senate last.
I don't have my glasses on. I couldn't read what was down there.
I had to lean in. I got my visions.
I can see the beard and your pink shirt, and that's about it.
That's it. That's it. Man, yeah, that's having that back. I was thinking about amateur wrestling and everything. They really put you through the ringer back in the day. Even when I was in high school, I remember seeing kids running around in the gym with garbage bags on to sweat out all the weight and just like trying to cut weight right before the deadline and everything like that. And man, just some intense stuff going down. So my goodness. So wanted to chat guys too. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to use the super chat like Darren did, help out the show. We're starring a couple questions already. Robert's doing a good job. Our producer Robert's starring some, but I did want to cover something that I thought was very interesting regarding AEW and what Jon Moxley had to say. He had an exclusive interview with the New York Post, and like Magnum earlier with the power driver, his the gloves were off a little bit when it came to AEW and some of the backstage dynamic. But he did mention about the new faction he's in and how they're kind of causing chaos. So this is what he said initially here. Everything that has happened up until this point doesn't matter. This is day zero. We begin from here. And it might not look much different right now, but it will. And things are accomplished by a small incremental steps, doing little things consistently. And that is how big changes are made over a period of time. And now, then he adds later on, he mentions how a backstage person happened to say this. Now, get this. The individual said, well, it's the bottom of the card, meaning a match. It doesn't matter. It's the bottom of the card. It doesn't matter. Moxley said, can you imagine saying that? Like, you're effing fired. Yeah, you're effing fired. Go work at Sunglass Hut. You should be effing pistol whipped for saying that. Everybody on the top was at one time on the bottom. That's how it works. You climb the ladder. You see a lot of frustration and confusion from some of these talents because there's no effing ladder. They don't know what to do. They're kind of just wandering in the desert. We're going to grab them by the shoulder and we're going to walk them. So I'm sure some of this was a little bit in character, but some of this feels kind of legitimate because of what I've heard about AEW behind the scenes and, you know, how the product's been presented too over the course of these past couple of years and why everybody is so critical of the product too from time to time. So, Magnum, do you have any thoughts on what Jon Moxley had to say?
Well, I think he was speaking enough truth in the work part of what he was saying that I know that he is passionate about the business, or he wouldn't have, gone out there to brave a new path for himself when he could have very well stayed with the WWE and still been in the thick of things and in the mix of everything going on. But he wanted something edgier that he could carve out and make his own and have more, I'm sure, creative control of what he did. So I think he's very much out of the respect part of the business and the paying your dues part of the business and working your way again up that ladder. And there's no free lunch. And it really doesn't matter what you did yesterday either. You're only as good as your performance today. The next one is what you're going to get measured on, not any of the accolades from the past. So I like that deal, and it wouldn't take but a faction like he's put together with a small group to consistently weave in and out of that to have a storyline you could follow, and it could be the one tangible factor that you can follow from beginning to end to the middle of things, and wherever they show up is consistent what you can expect and how they, they engage different people. It really could be a mastermind move if it's done right.
Yeah, I completely agree too. It sets the tone for some intriguing stories coming up, I think, but also hopefully sets the tone for the locker room in general and the dynamic of AEW. Greg, did you have any thoughts on what those comments I read from John Moxley?
Oh yeah, I mean, I ran into it later on in my career when I was done wrestling and helping with some of the young guys, and they come into and that I go back to the way we were trained, and I'm sure the way TA was trained, the way we were brought into it: respect, listen to your elders, and follow along, and just work your ass off in the ring. Well, a lot of these guys come in and now they want to they create a personality for themselves, and they think that's the way it should be, and they don't respect the sport itself and how it was built. People like TA, or go back into the 50s and then into the 60s, and how it evolved from there up to where the WWE took it. But the WWE, they still, you can tell by watching the talent now, more so now than when Vince was in charge, of how they respect what's going on and they respect each other. And when you have that unity between everybody, it really gets the flow of the whole network going, really. And I got so frustrated, I'd go to these towns and try to run it and listen to these guys. I said, Jesus, guy, no, go in there and be competitive, and tell a story through your personality. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Because anytime you try to be somebody you're not, you're going to fail.
100%.
And just let it be more concerned about the match itself and how the people react to it. Get that story going and get the people involved in your personality, not one that you want them to get into.
What if that really is their personality and they're a bunch of flying flapoons, and that's the problem?
Well, then about 90%, that is, because about 90% of them were like that.
Just to give you a counterpoint, I mean, it might not be.
You're absolutely right.
It might not be that they're stretching or they're trying to be something they're not.
If that is your personality, then we got to give you a different look.
Well, guys, you make a really resounding point, because I happened to go to Philadelphia this past week for NXT. I was there at the 2300 Arena for that episode, and I spoke to one of the creative minds behind the scenes, and he gave me a little insight about like how the process is there. And he was speaking about how so many of these younger stars now in NXT are athletes. They are not. A lot of them are not familiar with wrestling. So you get them out of college, you get them out of there, and how much easier it is to apply them into the pro wrestling dynamic, because they are coachable. They are used to being a part of organized sports and getting tough love, getting criticism, getting all that kind of stuff. And then the better, there's just a bit of the learning curve when it comes to the terminology and the dynamic of wrestling and cutting a promo and everything to that effect. But he was just saying how great and rewarding that is. And you're ultimately seeing a lot of these younger athletes, non-wrestling fans, get into the business and kind of elevate it. Like you look at somebody like a Trick Williams, who's like the NXT champion right now, big wide receiver in college and certain things like that. But you're seeing all these other guys and gals come outside of the pro wrestling bubble. And he was saying previously you had some talent there that are now at the other company and everything like that. And like they would separate themselves eventually from the fans and create a different dynamic where it's just like in their own bubble. And then you got the insecurities that come into play, the shark infested waters. That is the nature of the business in a lot of ways, where you are looking out for yourself on the independent scene. And I thought that was really intriguing to think about when it comes to NXT and what we're kind of seeing from WWE and a lot of these stars coming into play now moving forward. So,
well, you hit it right on the head. He did. I mean, the guys that came into wrestling that didn't have a sports background, Just wanted to be Russ. They were very hard to work with.
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura was one. He didn't come out of he played a little football, but he was never a big star or anything. But what did I do there? Did I lose
Oh, you're
you?
good. I can see you. Did you?
I can't see you guys.
We see you just fine. Did you close it? You might have closed
Go.
Oh,
I need your help. Go. There we go.
You're back in business?
Yeah, but and when Vern brought guys into camp, he always brought guys that had an athletic background because they were coachable. They did accept criticism and listen to it and change. People that don't come from that background, they're insulted when you tell them, hey, no, you got to do it this way, and this is the way it has to go. But I want to do it this way. I had a couple of guys like that. So go do it somewhere else. I'm not going to spend any time with you.
Right.
But I've trained a couple of kids now that they were both athletes. And I'm hoping one of them, Tyler Rampage, he's going to get a shot in Japan now. Wow. And the other one, JDX, who was really good. And I sent him down to the WWE. And unfortunately, the day they went down is when the hurricane hit there. So they had one day they did half of a workout and interviews, and then they never got another shot. But they're two that I took under my wing, and because they were coachable and they listened, and because they were former athletes, so used to getting their ass chewed out once in a while. Now, if you chew anybody out, they're, oh my God, how can you say that to me? And then they go running home and tell mommy that, I got my boy screaming at me. So I know their philosophy now is to get athletes because they're much easier to train.
Right. Magnum, do you have any added thoughts onto that aspect?
Well, and it's really true, and it's just the evolution of time, like everything else. 40 years ago, very hard to get a path into the door.
Sure.
You did have professional athletes that made it over. Ernie Ladd, Wahoo McDaniels, Stan Hansen, a lot of big ball players.
Brody.
Brody. Those guys kind of found the path, but you didn't see guys coming out of track and field and gymnastics and all kinds of other things that would have played, really well, into that same thing and that coachable mindset, we're talking about. And hats off to WWE because they really instituted that. Gerald Briscoe was going around like a recruiter all over the world, going to the Olympics and going to, the NCAAs and going to, all the big events, looking at, prospects and people that they saw potential and saw they had that it factor to go along with the fact that they were amazing, gifted athlete. When every time I watch Bianca Belair, come to the ring, and think about really just the fact that to that point she was used to being coached and pushed and drive herself to, she didn't need anybody to motivate her. She was self-motivated, but very coachable on top of it, and it turned into, one of the best women on the roster.
Yeah.
And so, that formula works. I used to, be so guarded about the business, but gone are the days of, the Funk's Ranch and the Hart Foundation, dungeon and all those mysterious, magical places where, where legends were born. It's a new era. It's a new time, and athletes are bigger, stronger, faster, more capable today than they've ever been. So, unless you're Mike Tyson, then you're ageless. Mike Tyson is a flipping beast. 58 years old. Good Lord.
When is that fight coming
up?
That's
15th, Friday or Saturday?
It's the 15th, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the 15th. So that's
Friday.
That's Friday.
Yeah, Netflix. Be there or be square. That's going to be the deal. Don't try to call me during that because I will be on it.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think he's going to obliterate Paul.
If it's anything legit about it, he destroys him.
Yeah.
Literally, him blindfolded with muscle memory and his instincts that he's honed his entire life are deadly. And I just don't think that.
Well, what do you think they're going to do?
I'm not even going to think because I
You're
don't.
not. You're just going to
It
watch.
really depends on what moves Mike's in. They could have a plan. They could have whatever. And it's like you said, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face.
Punched in the mouth.
Yeah, it's let me hit you with that uppercut and figure out your plan, your future, your life, your life insurance policy, all of it. Just in a nanosecond.
My gosh. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty thrilling. I'm excited to tune into that. And man, yeah, if I had to place my money on somebody, which I might do Mike Tyson. I would do Mike Tyson. So that'd be
Be
my
careful.
Mm-hmm. Right? Never know.
I'm a little more this way on it.
You're more so to Jake Paul? You think Jake Paul is going to be?
No, I don't think so. But I think it could be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they're going to draw a shitload of money with it.
Well, let's put it like this: he hasn't ever beat a legitimate boxer. A real, not a top 10 heavyweight boxer. He is not. He got in the ring with that one kid that beat him in a decision, and the guy was decent that he fought. I mean, he obviously had skills and he was actually a fighter, but nobody that hits like like they said. The last thing a fighter loses is the strength. They lose endurance, might be a little off their speed, but the strength is there. And good gosh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's going to be
Mike Tyson.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, he's calling you. He's the next Power Town figure, Mike Tyson, guys.
I don't know who it is.
We got a question from Eddie Prather here. Question for Dom, Greg, and Magnum. Which tag teams would make your Mount Rushmore? My 4 would be Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton, Arn and Ole Anderson, Rock and Roll Express, and the Fabulous Ones. Greg, what 4 tag teams would you put on your Mount Rushmore?
Well, I'd put the High Flyers on there first.
Boom. Okay.
I'd put Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson on there.
Dose.
Another excellent team from the AWA was Bobby Duncombe and Jack Lanza.
Okay.
Duncombe and Hansen together was another odd. I mean, they were awesome. Go down to the Von Erich brothers.
Okay, the Von Erichs too. Boom. Mm-hmm. That's 4.
Yeah, and the Rock and Roll Express, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. How about that? All right.
And I'm trying to think, outside the box. I mean, God Almighty, there were so many teams that were, those guys that were teamed up all the time together, basically.
Sure.
But then you had combinations, and I know TA had different combinations down there. When you throw like Mad Dog and the Crusher together, or the Vachon brothers, Mad Dog and Butcher. I mean, they talk about heat and people hating them and the way they were in the ring. I mean, you go back to that era. There's so many great teams. I don't know who you would put up there as your top 5.
I know, right? That's the difficult.
Dusty and Magnum, TA. I mean, that combination, drawing power was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did in the ring together, that's the big thing, is how the team works together too in the ring. Something you throw a team together and they're just, but the guys have been together, you can read each other and that's what really brings it to. I mean, God, it's the way you are in the ring and how people gravitate to you and how you get them involved in your personality. And I mean, I've told you guys about Martel and Santana. We wrestled them in the Cow Palace, which was, they walk out and they go, whoa, bullshit. And we think we're going to be the heroes. We walk out and get the same thing. 18 minutes, it was like that.
Yeah.
And we were selling for 18 minutes when we finally turned the crowd, and we're supposed to go like 20-some minutes. We went 45 minutes and had them standing. But, you know, again, it's the teams and how they work together in the ring, you know, and some of the teams we talked about here were all able to do that. There were some guys thrown together and they were hard to work with. You know, you didn't get that flow with them.
Yeah, that's a key component to it.
You know, and that's the key part to it. So if you just go by popularity, you know, that's different. But if you go by how they were in the ring, that's why I go like with Patterson and Stevens. It doesn't sound like, well, those two, they were phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a heel team, I don't think there was any two better than them.
Man,
but then you look at the Vachon brothers together, you know, shit, they sold out everywhere and all through Canada. And they were a vicious team.
Yeah.
People today would say, oh, you know, why would you put them in there? Well, because shit, they drew money.
Right. That's the key.
Yeah, and I know you had some people that you worked with down there. What teams would you put in there?
Yeah, who would be on your Mount Rushmore, TA?
Well, it's two different things, right? Because what Greg's talking about, you know, teams that were solid in the territories, drew money, could get out there, you know, I mean, and so as good as baby faces in the history of the business, period.
Say that again. Magnum, you cut out.
I said Ricky Morton. Ricky Morton is probably one of the best baby faces in the history of the business. Yeah. And Robert always knew where to be at the right time in that game. So, you know, they got to be in the game. But if you turn the clock back and look at guys that set the stage for that, look at like Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood.
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah, you know, Ricky, I've heard him in award ceremonies and stuff and given the flowers to Jay for teaching him the psychology of the business and you know setting the stage for everything that was to come in his singles career. So tag teams do accomplish lots of things on different levels. They help draw money, they help make people, but they also help school people. You know, Dusty put Scott McGee and myself and Brad Armstrong and myself in a tag team, middle of the card, going out there 45 minutes with the Royal Kangaroos every night, but to learn that time and learn those things. And so they get that sentimental thing going. But, you know, as far as impact, you know, nobody will ever negate the sound of Iron Man music playing and the Road Warriors coming to the ring. You know, if you were a fan, if you happened to be the one standing on the other side of that ring when the music played, and you were the ones, you know, waiting for them, you know, they were a phenom in the business and brought their work skill up to where they could follow their entrance. You know, it used to be they could, you know, that was the big rib that they can't follow their music, you know, their own music and the pop. But they got where they could go out there and actually work and have some really good matches with people. So I'd have to have the Rock and Roll Express. I'd have to have the Road Warriors up there. And, you know, outside of that, some iteration of the Four Horsemen. Tully and Arn arguably, you know, never got the due that they should have had as a tag team duo, because the run they had in New York was not, you know, it was great work. They always did great work everywhere, but it was Arn's timing was so impeccable. He just knew how to be right there to cut the legs out from underneath somebody in a heelish way that was so crisp and so on top of everything. Yeah, I think he's one of the biggest unsung heroes in the business for what he should have been known for, both as a single and a tag team. 100%. I don't even know how to throw a fourth one out there because there's just so many. Everybody that Greg named off was. See, here when we had the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, which was incredible.
Ole and Gene
Anderson, Ole and Gene were
and Lars Anderson.
but then when Lars wasn't in it, it was
He wasn't in there yet.
Gene and Ole.
Yeah.
But the twist came when Gene retired from in-ring work, became the manager, and when he managed Ray Stevens and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Oh my gosh! And Gene was again just that nasty heel manager, and both those guys could just go like nobody's business. I mean, they had riots, you know, like that, and that's what the tag teams were. They didn't draw the house all by themselves, but they certainly added so much to the depth of the card and the entertainment value and the substance and. It's part of what makes professional wrestling what it is.
Yeah, man.
I wish we'd had a chance to work with Ole with Arn and Tully.
Wow. Yeah.
And Vern trained Gene and Ole.
Jeez.
You know that?
Yeah, that's man. Yeah.
And Lars.
And Lars too. Jeez. Yeah, you guys, holy smokes, the match you guys could have had Arn and Tully against the babyface high flyers, man, that would have been really something to take away.
Yeah, that was, unfortunately, back in the days of the territory, sometimes you weren't able to get out and get into those kind of matches. And those were things that you'd really like to have been able to do. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. I would have loved to have worked in the Charlotte area for a time, but it just wasn't in the.
You could have come over in the summer when you were vacationing.
Yeah,
I could have. Yeah, I did. Thank you. I never got the invite.
Well, see, I didn't know you well back then.
No, well, really, summers were good for us.
They were pretty decent. Huh?
I mean, your body got to rest, and you got time to spend with your family.
Yeah,
it had to be hard, like Christ and Charlotte. I mean, you were. What, 365 days out of the year and a couple extras after that?
I never knew any other way. I mean, from the moment I got in the business, it was a 7-day-a-week, 12 months out of the year deal. Everybody I worked for, worked Christmas Day and Thanksgiving and all the holidays. And there was, you got the only territory I've ever heard of in the history of the business that tailored down during a season like that. I mean,
no, that's just the way it was up in the northern tier. In the summertime, people didn't want to go into the arenas, and the outdoor ones was always a challenge because you can that time of the year up there, you get some bad weather and can ruin your whole night. And plus, Vern liked giving his talent that time off. We only ran with maybe 18 guys, but they were all main event guys from the bottom up, and they all were making. 150 to 350,000 a year, and wrestling 200 and some days out of the year. Man. When you wrestle that every night and you get an injury and you go in the next night, I mean, it's really a toll on everybody, I think. But, that's just me. I don't know if I could have lasted doing it like that.
My goodness, yeah, that's a gauntlet you're running right there. I tell you that.
Well, when you look back and with the AWA, I mean, the matches were very, very solid. You go up to New York, they weren't. They just weren't. TA knows that the physicality that they had with the Crockett organization too, and along with Eddie Graham and down in Florida.
And Bill Watts, same way.
And Bill Watts. I mean, that's the way you had to be. Mm-hmm. You'd go up and work on a card in the garden, and like I say, you're on the first or second match, and if you have a match with somebody and you get the crowd into it, they're all going, "What the hell was that?"
Yeah,
right. But their whole philosophy was so much different. They didn't come from that wrestling background like Vern did, and Bill Watts did, and Eddie Graham. I mean, all of them. Mm-hmm. And they wanted wrestling, and you had to know holds. You had to know get in and out of them.
Right.
The New York philosophy was punching and kicking.
Punch and kick. That was what Bruno was all.
Boom, boom, boom. Get it over with and get out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Hearts up in Calgary. Long, hard, grinding matches.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I guess I could plug it. I interviewed Bret Hart last week. It's available now on OneTrueSportTV.com and then on your RVD's podcast feed. So One of a Kind too. But I mentioned we talk about Leo Burke and what fascinating aspect was about Leo Burke. I watched a match with him and Rick Martel, Greg, and it was Leo Burke made the headlocks so entertaining, and the match was like 40 minutes or something like that. And I was intrigued by the whole thing. It really speaks to just having a good foundation like that, and then making a story out of it. And I thought that was really, really fascinating. So,
well, and that's where it's changed in wrestling. I mean, now, when and I just heard this not too long ago from TV, the attention span of the public watching TV before they turn the channel, 8 seconds.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, WWE is adapted to that, and they just keep everything going and going and going. But their matches are solid and in storytelling, and they do a better job of it than anybody in the business right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we'll close it out with just 2 more questions here, but we'll add this comment here. Al Tuttle said, America's team, Magnum and Dusty, weren't too shabby of a tag team either. So, yeah.
I threw that out, but nobody grabbed onto it.
Nobody grabbed onto it. Nobody. No. Greg mentioned it. CB, this is an interesting question. This might cause some eyebrows to raise. He says, Greg, what would have happened to the Young Bucks in the AWA?
Don't know.
There we go.
They'd adapted.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have had to, or they wouldn't have survived.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, but the thing was, you had such great heel personalities in there.
Mm-hmm.
Could lead the match.
Right.
They'd have to follow along.
Or that's the thing, though. Those guys can work.
They can
work.
The Young
Bucks
just
choose to do what they do because that's what lane they're in that particular day. But those guys, I've watched them work in Charlotte years ago, and I mean they can both work. They're just so creative and thinking outside the box, and have laughed all the way to the bank. So
they would have made it. They'd have made it back in the territory days with us.
Yeah. Sure. Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing too, Magnum, is the Young Bucks always get razzed on for like, oh, they do all these goofy moves or like, the super kicks and all that stuff. But when it boils down to it, they really can work, and they can get the crowd engaged, and they can play the heels or they can play the baby faces. And it's and I think, Greg, to what you were saying, they would adapt to that style and get acclimated.
Yeah, and that was the key. If you could adapt, because every territory that time was a little different.
Sure.
You had to adapt to the way they all did it. And if you couldn't, you weren't going to last. So
we're going to do it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, there's there's a couple of young teams out there that are fantastic that, the British Bulldogs were another one.
They were amazing.
We're talking about tag teams, I don't mean to forget about them, but there were so many great teams out there to just throw, who should be on Mount Rushmore. You
can't pick it.
You really can't.
Really can't.
There's a number of teams you could put up there that could be on that.
Absolutely, 100%.
Except Dusty and TA, because they were just a short run together.
Short run America's team. They were America's team nonetheless, though.
Didn't even get a response out of them. Just a stare. Did you fall asleep?
Well, speaking of America, this question is from the boss, not Magnum. But he says this question is for both gentlemen. Who should be the first woman to win the United States Championship on SmackDown? I know Greg is going to say Tiffany Stratton, but who would Magnum choose? Greg, would you say Tiffany?
Tiffany would be a good one, but I think you need somebody with a little more experience in there.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Cardinal would be very good at it. Or
Bailey.
They have such great talent there in the ladies. There's a number of ladies that would be. The gal that's with.
You thinking?
You talking about?
Thinking Liv Morgan?
No, not Liz.
Well, Raquel Rodriguez with her.
The real tough one. Oh shit.
Raquel Rodriguez?
No.
because Rhea Ripley's got.
She was with Damien.
Oh, Rhea Ripley. She's got
Ripley.
Ripley. Okay.
Rhea.
She's not the champ right now, so I guess that would kind of work. Yeah, she's not on SmackDown though either.
Oh, well.
Yeah, but
sorry.
she wouldn't be a bad choice.
You asked me who they would be. I think it should be a good one on either
one. Yeah, you can't beat Rhea Ripley.
Right.
Yeah. Magnum, who would you choose?
Bailey.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she really is.
She's great.
She works like a guy, and she works old school.
Yeah, she. Well, her interview is so genuine, and her timing in the ring is really, really good. And she just, she's a good heel, good baby face. Either way, she's a very, very capable performer.
Yeah, she's amazing, and plus she would be a good one to start off with because it sets the precedent. Wow, Bailey's already a huge star, going to be a Hall of Famer. So it's like if she's the first to hold that title, that makes the title mean even more. So Charlotte would be a great one because she's coming back from injury. Yeah. She'll be immediately put into the thing, and man, you're starting that title off hot. Real Charlotte gets a hold of it. So
we got so many good girls, so there's a lot of them that could carry that.
It's so crazy.
Tiffany are not quite ready yet to carry that position.
So there you go. There you go.
She's going to be very good, and she's going to be a champion very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of time for a lot of these women to kind of do it. And when I was at NXT, the women opened the show and they closed the show, and that really speaks to how stacked they are in WWE for the women's division. So some exciting stuff to come. But boy, this was an exciting episode. We covered so much ground. Every time I'm doing timestamps, we got a bunch covered that we went over. So guys, be sure to like us, like the channel, whether you're watching on 4horsemanetwork.com or OneTrueSportTV.com. Be sure to hit subscribe and get the word out about us. And hey, well, I just posted yesterday a doubleheader of Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. The last 2 episodes are now up on audio version, so be sure to subscribe. Just type 4 Horseman Network in your podcast feed of choice. You'll get Gagne, you'll get Magnum, and you'll get Arn. So you can't beat that. Just type in 4 Horseman Network on your podcast platform of choice and rate us 5 stars while you're at it too. If you'd like to follow Greg on Instagram, you can do so at gagne.greg. You can follow Magnum on Instagram at Magnum_TA. You can follow him on the X at The Real Magnum TA. And you can follow me on X at Dominic D'Angelo. And stay tuned. Be sure to bookmark if you haven't. You want to bookmark, boom, Powertown. So you can scan that QR code that you see there or go to PowertownWrestling.com and keep track of what will be developing there at Powertown Wrestling. So PowertownWrestling.com, guys. Check it out. And before we close out too, let me get some plugs in for the merch. We got some good merch going on with Greg and Magnum. Here we go. Which one is it? Am I finding? There it is. Boom. Get yourself warmed up. Magnum TA, the zip hoodie, the mug. You can get some coffee. You can wear the hoodie. You can carry around a baseball bat, whether you're in Virginia or whether you're in Minneapolis. Lay the hammer down like Magnum. Scan that QR code, and you can check out the Magnum TA collection. But hey, if you want a little Greg Gagne,
they all look good.
High Flyer hoodie. Look at that. High Flyer hoodie, the zip one. You can get it in dark blue or black, and you can also get the mug there too. And plus, there's plenty of other Greg Gagne merch there too. So scan that QR code, and you'll go to the Greg Gagne collection. You can also check out this shirt there too, dressed like a champion, everybody. Or check out some other Magnum tees like this, the Magnum TA, Boss of Chesapeake, or the Nikita Best of 7. So be sure
those are good looking shirts and mugs. Man, good job.
You can't beat it there. OneTrueSport.com. Go check them out and scoop yours up too. High quality merchandise. We don't mess around over there. We do the high quality stuff. So be sure to get the word out about that. But guys, this was a fun one. We covered some great ground.
Gogo just lit all the candles, so she's preparing us for something here.
Oh boy.
Either a seance or she's going to cut my throat. One of the two.
Oh my. Maybe the Wyatt Six are showing up. I don't know.
We'll see. She ran hiding now.
Set the mood. Well, Greg, we hope to see you next week, hopefully.
I hope so. If you don't, you know what happened.
We know what happened.
We're lit.
we'll hopefully see you next time here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA, Greg Gagne.